This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 256 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Philip. How are you?
I almost forgot to say hi. And
I know, I could feel that.
I was like, yeah.
How you doing?
Thanks for jumping in.
No problem. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm good. I haven't had such an exciting week that you've had. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit. What was happening in Kentucky this week? We've been talking about it, preparing for it for a couple of weeks.
So we've talked about it, and our show is going to be a little bit about what happened here at Rolex over the weekend. We have two wonderful guests, Jenn O'Neill, who's head trainer at Antebellum Farm. She is a wonderful event rider, advanced event rider, and she's going to recap Rolex a little for us and also give us a tip on picking thoroughbreds off the track and some of the challenges that she has showing them. And then we also have one of our listeners I met at the listener meetup with Glenn and Jennifer.
How was the listener meetup, Reese?
Oh, it's awesome. We had several listeners.
I didn't get to go and
you didn't get to come with us, but Glenn and Jennifer are great, and they came for a barbecue on Friday night, and then we met up Saturday morning with our listeners, and that was great. We had about 30 people, so that was a lot of fun, and got to meet some dressage ladies that were there.
Did you go Did you course walk?
I did. Yeah. I did. I course walked with Caitlin, who we'll talk to it also. She is a blogger from Sidelines Magazine. And she is a listener of the Dressage Radio Show as well. So I got to spend some really good time with her, and we did. We really enjoyed the course. It was a beautiful, perfect day here. Started a little cool with I needed a fleece, and then it moved to just a beautiful afternoon, and it was great. It was one of my favorite Rolexes. I didn't really have any official duties, which is kind of nice sometimes. Yeah, last year I did the test ride, so there was definitely pressure there, and then the year before I had coached someone. So this year I got to really just relax and spend some time with friends and sponsors, and it was just a really fun weekend. So
now you've been talking up the shopping for a couple of weeks. Tell me, how was it? What was there? What did you see? What did you buy?
My bank account has never.
Did it suffer?
It's going to take a little time to recover. I'm taking every lesson that wants a lesson this week. No,
You're working
I
overtime.
hope so. Yeah, I'm working overtime to. I didn't find any amazing deals, but I enjoyed the Steuben tent. They have great. I got Winnie a new halter. She needed. It does have a little bling on it.
Halters, yeah.
I should probably take a picture of it and put it on the Facebook page, but I did buy Winnie a new halter. I found some great socks that are fabulous. What else did I find? I did buy a new pair of custom boots. I was planning on that. I like there's a company from Ecuador, and they have really good boots that are very reasonably priced, and they're custom. So for me, unfortunately, I am not a stock boot size at all.
Stock boots, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that was
sounds
fun.
pretty good. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and I got to see the guys from Thin Line, so really a good weekend. So enjoyed it a lot. We missed you, Philip, and we are actually recording early because we have the Oaks and Derby this weekend.
Yeah,
and
another crazy weekend.
Another crazy weekend in Kentucky. These are our highlight 2 weeks. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. It doesn't look like the weather. We're going to cross our fingers.
Rain and stuff, so maybe you guys are the same, but might be a mutter for the Derby.
It may be a mutter. So we're recording early, and we're sad Philip and Meredith aren't coming this year, but next year. It happens every year. And so we're going to do that on Friday. And Glenn and Jennifer have asked me to be on the morning show, so we'll be already having fun, I'm sure. So I'll have to partake lightly in all the morning fun until I finish with the radio show. So it should be a really fun weekend. This is just a great 2 weeks in Kentucky. So if anybody ever wants to come or get information, let me know, because this is sort of our highlight time.
Yeah, send us a question on the Facebook page for the radio show, and Reese can look on there and get to you. or we'll talk about it on the show. Let everybody know how to go down, where to go, what to do.
Exactly.
Lots of fun
Yeah, we'd
stuff.
love to. So
There's been a little bit of other stuff going on in the world. Can you let us know a little bit? Del Mar 3-star CDI went on. Who's our winner?
Oh, so our winner is Stefan Peters and Legolas, which is awesome. This is a great WEG selection trial. I'm sure it was a selection, actually. And so for the Grand Prix Saturday night, but Jan Ebling, also in his Olympic mare, scored a personal best by 1.75% off the lead. So it was a great weekend at Del Mar as well. So
it's good. It's good that somebody's pushing Stefan Peters and Legolas to perform every show and that to do his best every time. And I'm sure. We don't get to see the California riders that much. They don't really go to Florida and stuff. But lots of great riders and horses out there doing really well.
Exactly.
And to talk about another American, we want to talk about Arlene Page and Alina were 5th at Hagen CDI 4-star, posting a personal best and the first time above 70%. So congratulations to...
That's great. Congratulations to Toonie.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful lady, does a lot for the sport, and she's actually a phenomenal rider. So really excited for her that she did so well with her mare, Alina, who's a lovely, lovely horse. So we wish them luck and fingers crossed as all of our riders are getting ready for WEG. It's really a fun time for sure.
Awesome. So I think after this commercial, we'll get to the show, and who do we have?
So, Philip, we're going to start our night off with Caitlin Christopherson. She is a blogger for Sidelines Magazine, and she is blogs about the hopeful amateur.
Coach Jenn here, host of the Horse Tip Daily Show on the Horse Radio Network. The way consumers interact with the brands they have trusted for years and those they are about to fall in love with for the first time is becoming more and more mobile, literally, and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Podcasts or internet radio shows like this one combine the new consumer preference for on-demand information and entertainment with the power of niche market audiences. Advertising on the Horse Radio Network podcasts allows you to reach the equestrian consumer using today's preferred on-demand delivery system. It's cost-effective and flexible, able to reinforce your existing marketing and social media strategies. To learn more about advertising on this show or any of the shows on the Horse Radio Network, contact us at 859-951-2022 or you can email us at glenn@horseradionetwork.com. That's Glenn with 2 N's at horseradionetwork.com. Come and join the Horse Radio Network family. You'll enjoy the ride.
Well, it is our pleasure this evening to have Caitlin Christopherson. She is an amateur equestrian and blogger for Sidelines Magazine, and I met her this weekend at the listener meetup at Rolex, and she is a fan of our show. I love it. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
It's fun to get people on who like the show. We have yet to get somebody on who doesn't like the show.
That's you can do that, Philip. You can do that when I'm not on.
Yeah, it's positive affirmation or something, right? We like to have friends, but
I love it. So, Caitlin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I grew up in Texas, and I was just always kind of horse crazy from the beginning. And my parents don't really know where I got it from because I grew up in about as unhorsey of a family as you can get. But
it's a defective gene. It's a defective gene. It's a defective gene.
Yes, I think so. Because I don't even remember. I don't know. It just ever since I was a little girl, 3 or 4, I just started drawing pictures of horses and writing stories about horses. And so finally I got my first horse when I was 11. And I just kind of came up through 4-H. I pretty much did the Western thing living in Texas. And then I ended up taking a break just for, financial and personal reasons throughout high school and in college. But I knew that horses were something that I would have back in my life eventually. And then I graduated in May of 2012, and I had also happened to start dating a guy who was from a very horsey Lexington family. So I moved to Lexington after I graduated from college in New Orleans. And, I just decided, if I'm going to be in Lexington, I'm going to get involved. So I started taking English lessons. It was something, jumping and all of that was something I had always been interested in as a kid. We just didn't have a lot of it in my area. So, I started taking the lessons, and then we moved to Alabama for a year so my boyfriend could train to become a Black Hawk pilot, and they ended up having an equestrian center on the Army post. So I leased a horse. He was a Appaloosa Thoroughbred Cross, and I called him Bentley, and we just kind of learned together. And so now I'm back in Lexington, and I am riding out at my boyfriend's family's farm, riding Louie. He's a retired eventer. And so, I just, eventually I hope to be back in the show ring. The sooner the better. I've always loved competing, no matter what it is. Jumping, dressage, Western, barrel racing. I did that when I was a kid. I'm just kind of all over the place. I just love it. I can't decide one place just to kind of stay because I kind of love many different disciplines. So, yeah.
What would you say is now your main discipline / focus of training?
Well, it's definitely English riding. I haven't ridden Western in a while. But as far as English, it would have to be kind of like the low-level eventers, just because I really enjoy the way that with the low-level eventers or the eventers, altogether, you can focus, you can do the different things. They've got the dressage, which is obviously you get to be real pretty and proper and, do things like that. And then the cross country, it's kind of just like you're running out in the field, it kind of simulates fox hunting, which there's a lot of in this area. My boyfriend's family absolutely loves to do. And that's just kind of, I think it's like a fun test for you and your horse to be on this kind of 6-7 minute journey. It's just you and your horse running, getting through the obstacles. And then there's the show jumping, which I think show jumping is awesome. I absolutely love to watch the Grand Prix riders do show jumping. So it's just nice because it lets you combine so much. Like I said, I'm kind of all over the place. I can't choose just one thing. And so eventing lets me, combine that. So yeah.
I love it. Well, that's what's so fun about eventing is that you can do all three disciplines and work so hard at all three. And I think that's amazing. So
exactly.
Tell us, how did you get involved with Sidelines and start your blog, The Hopeful Amateur?
Well, okay. So I've been doing this process of getting back into the horse world and starting to ride again. And I just had a lot of funny instances where, they weren't necessarily funny at the time because I just kind of was cringing because I would just ask silly questions or do silly things where it's okay, if you're a horse person, you should know this or you shouldn't be doing this. I just felt like such a novice. And so, but I would look back on these experiences and I was able to laugh at them. So I kind of just started writing about them, and I thought, well, someday I might, maybe at first I just let my family read these things and stuff. And then I saw that Sidelines would feature your blog for you. So I contacted the editor and I said, I'm a young amateur. I'm trying to figure out how to begin a career, how to, have a long-term serious relationship, how to get back into the horse world, how to afford it, just all of these different things. And I just said, I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, whether they're a young amateur, somebody who is just starting and has never ridden before, or, they rode as a child and now they're getting back into it. And I certainly have found that it has been something very relatable. I have a lot of people tell me that they can understand the experiences, which I'm glad that I'm not the only one who has them. For example, one of my first times going on a ride with my boyfriend's sister, I put the thin line pad on under the saddle pad, and she was just so nice about it, like, oh no, just learning experiences. So I just decided, I might as well, of course I would love to think of myself as some amazing Grand Prix rider, who could show at Rolex or, do whatever, but I'm not, and I just kind of have to, own it for what I am. I'm an amateur. I make a lot of mistakes. I am nowhere, near a perfect rider. I just do the best I can, and that's just what I wanted to share with people.
Are there any kind of unexpected positives that came out of writing the blog that you could talk to us about?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would have to say, one of the biggest ones would be that writing the blog has eventually allowed me to begin writing print stories. I have my first print story coming out in Sidelines' June issue. And so, just that was something. I was an English major in college. So it really kind of that allows me to do what I love, which is writing and journalism. And then the other thing would be this weekend at Rolex, I was able to get media passes, which was absolutely an amazing experience just to be in the middle of all of that. On one of my Rolex blogs, I just kind of put, I would never have thought that they would have, granted me media access just because I'm an amateur writer and an amateur blogger, really. And I wouldn't think that, they would consider me an important part of the press, but I was honored to be there. And it was just an amazing experience, to go on the course walk with Derek DeGrazia and on cross country, and then show jumping with Richard Jeffrey, and then the press conferences every day with the top 3 riders. It was absolutely an amazing experience. So those are some of definitely the positives that have come out of the blog.
Well, I think it's great, and I think you bring up just a great point. You're in a tough stage in life because you're not really, you're moving around. Josh is in the military, so you're all over the place with him, and you're not able to really, it's really hard to, even get a horse to be, because you're not quite at that point in your life. So I love, I'm looking through your blog now, and it's great because you talk about all the horses that you ride, and at the end of the day, that's such great experiences that you'll take as you move forward in your career. So I love it. And I think you bring up so many really important parts to life with horses, and that is, life changes, and Philip and I are the most stable in the sense of this is what we do for a living, and but it is very hard, as you go through life and you get married, have children, et cetera, your life changes, and I think you address that really, really well in the blog. And I think I think it was just a story that really grabbed me, and I said, a lot of our listeners go through these challenges. And certainly for Philip and I too, there are challenges for trainers when it comes to, having spouses with other, Meredith rides, but my husband does not ride. And there's a lot of challenges with owning horses. They're expensive, they're time consuming. So I think you address that in a really, really fun way. And that's why I wanted to bring your story to all of our listeners. So how can our listeners find the blog?
So they can go to sidelinesnews.com /blogs /The Hopeful Amateur. And that's how they can read my blogs. And, just to kind of touch on what you were saying, Reese, it's definitely, horses are such an interesting, whether you're in the horse profession or it's a hobby, it's not like a lot of other things. Our horses, are not bicycles or dirt bikes or motorcycles that we can just kind of store behind our house and not look at for a couple of months and then come back to them. They require so much time and so much money, but it's kind of like if you have the horse bug, you can't really imagine, your life without it. So you have to find some way to work that in there. And it's just, certainly for anybody, whether you're a professional or an amateur, there are just challenges to working with these magnificent animals. But it's a challenge that we take on gladly to do what we do. So,
Caitlin, maybe you can talk to our listeners a little bit about what you try and focus on in your blog, or what's unique about your blog, just to bring people to reading about you. About your perspective. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think I do have a bit of advantage because I am writing has just been something, writing as far as, journalistic, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, has just always kind of been a gift of mine. So that was another reason that I kind of wanted to incorporate, as far as blogging, my hobby of horses into sharing it with people. I kind of focus on, I have a really unique opportunity being located in Lexington, just because there are so many horse related events that go on that you don't necessarily get in other cities. So, whether there's a Grand Prix going on at the horse park, or, Keeneland, fox hunting, anything like that. I mean, I am afforded so many amazing experiences that I just want to share it with other people, and I want other people to find ways in their communities that they can get involved too as a hopeful amateur, because I really think that amateurs are a very important part of the sport. And at the end of the day, it's it's a group of people that need to be focused on.
For sure, it's the backbone, and they have the most numbers. That's
absolutely.
Yeah,
that's why we do this show.
Yeah,
exactly.
Amateur friendly, hopefully.
Exactly.
And educational. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your Rolex experience. It was the first time for you at Rolex?
This was actually my second time. I had previously been there in 2012 when William Fox Pitt won his second Rolex title. And so this was my third time. But
maybe you're good luck for him. Maybe you're good luck for him. Can you tell him about that, right?
Yes.
Maybe, I know. Maybe he should give me his third Rolex watch.
I doubt that. But maybe for people who are thinking, I'd really like to go next year. What, when did you arrive? What did you do? What's there to see?
Well, I went out on Wednesday, the day before competition, just to kind of, get a feel for where everything was. Because, just be prepared. If you come to Rolex, it's a lot of walking. Everything, especially on cross country day, is spread out all over the park. And the trade fair is enormous. So you kind of have to, I wanted to get a feeling before the crowds, especially because cross country day, we had almost 36,000 people out there. And so I just kind of wanted to get a feel for where everything was before all of these people descended upon the horse park. So Thursday, I went for the first day of competition, and my boyfriend's mother actually is part of a syndicate, Deep Purple Eventing, and so Emily Bashir was riding Here's to You, or Quincy, so I went out there to watch her do dressage. The dressage, I love watching the dressage of eventing, but it's not like watching dressage. It's not like watching you guys do it. I think that is kind of a lot more fun to watch, watch like the real pros do dressage. But nonetheless, it was a beautiful day, at least on Thursday. Friday they had rain. But so I went out and, I'm not sure how many people know about the shopping of Rolex, but truly
Reese
the shopping
talks about
of
it all
Rolex.
the time. Yeah.
I talk about it all
Our
the
listeners
time.
will know
It's so
about it.
profound.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it really, it's something that I think you should save up all year for.
Yes,
and then it's like, do your shopping at Rolex, because there are just so many, a ton of the vendors just have huge sales. I was super excited because I got a barber coat 50% off.
I asked her where,
and
and they didn't have any more. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's because it was the last one. I know, and I had to buy it. It was just like fate. But the shopping, I don't know if people realize when they come what the shopping is going to be like. And so that's another thing. And then, of course, Cross Country Day, is the big day that brings the biggest crowds. And it's really, the weather was beautiful, and we started off at Jump 1 this year, and we saw Bug Davidson got us started off. So I was with Glenn and Reese and everybody for that. And you just kind of, you just kind of spend the day wandering the cross-country course, drinking mimosas.
Yes,
and
that.
Yeah, and watching the riders. So that is a lot of fun. But also, this year we had a young American, Lauren Kiefer, was in second place coming into show jumping. And so that was a lot of fun on the last day to be able to watch that, because we did a course walk with Richard Jeffrey the morning of show jumping, and he had actually said that after the first jog after the vet inspection that morning, on Sunday, the judges had asked him to take some of the fences up to the max height because the horses had looked so good. Jumped clear, and William ended up taking first. But he seems like such a nice guy. And if you watch the videos of his interviews after, he has a lot of respect for American riders, which I think is great. So it really, I'm a little, I have to say I'm a little biased about how I spend Rolex, because for the 2 years I've been there, I've also had foundation tint access. And so we always get, these amazing brunches, and they have an open bar and everything like that. So
It's
that's
a
definitely
lot of fun. Yeah, that helps.
yeah. So that's nice to have, but it's just amazing. I mean, you can bring your dogs, and it's just a great experience.
Yes, it is. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much for your insight, and we will continue to read your blog. I love it. I love what you're doing, and we wish you all the best in all your horse sport. And we'd love to check in with you in 6 months and see how the Hopeful Amateur is doing.
Yeah, of course, and I'll have to come take some lessons with you, Reese, and then we can determine whether I'm hopeless or hopeful.
I love it. I love it. Deal. After this commercial break, we're going to talk with Jennifer O'Neill, head trainer at Antebellum Farm here in Lexington, and she is an advanced eventer and an authority on eventing, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what happened at Rolex, but also a wonderful training tip about getting thoroughbreds off the track and retraining them for eventing and dressage.
Are you tired of treating your horse for soreness? Well, then be proactive. Benefab offers you and your horse a natural remedy to joint and muscle stiffness, inflammation, and circulatory deficiencies. Benefab offers a variety of innovative products, like saddle pads and polo wraps and quarter sheets for your horse, and socks and blankets for you. Simply ride in it or wear it, and feel the difference Benefab's ceramic-infused products make. You can check them out online at benefabproducts.com, or you can call them toll-free at 855-957-8378.
Well, it is my pleasure this evening to have Jenn O'Neill, head trainer at Antebellum Farm and advanced event writer, on the show tonight. Jenn, welcome.
Hi, thank you guys for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. So, Jenn, we're just wrapping up Rolex here in Lexington. How did it go over the weekend?
I thought that it was a great competition. I saw a lot of really excellent riding that was rewarded, at the end of the weekend. And it was beautiful weather. We don't think we could have asked for better weather. And today it's been raining in Lexington, so I think we were pretty fortunate that this didn't happen on us this weekend. So I think it was a great competition, and I think everyone that was out there watching had a great time.
I agree. Was it record-breaking on Cross Country Day?
No, I'm not sure. I heard rumblings about a record-breaking attendance on Saturday, but I haven't heard the final numbers on that.
Me either, but there were a lot of people, and it was gorgeous. It was 70 degrees and sunny and great. It was a big, big party. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sporting a little bit of a sunburn from the weekend.
Me too, but I was fine with that. I didn't care with the little sun. So, Jenn, tell us about the top three. Who were in the top three?
Yeah, give us a rundown.
We had William Fox Pitt took home another win and another Rolex. He might need to have some longer arms to wear all of his watches at once.
True.
And then second place was Lauren Kiefer with Veronica. William won on Bay My Hero, I should point out. And then third place was...
Was it Buck Davidson that was third?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, I think so.
I helped with awards, so I was standing down on the ramp, so I kind of missed the goings on. But I definitely brought out the awards for the second place rider, the first place American, which was Lauren Kiefer.
And she's young, isn't she? That was a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah, she's fairly young. I think she's in her mid-20s now.
Yeah, that was really exciting. The crowd went crazy when she finished, and William did not beat her by very much, right? He didn't beat her by much.
It was a very close competition down to the end.
Yeah, it was exciting. I love it. Well, Jenn, thank you for the rundown. And now this is really the trainer tip that we brought you on for, and that was to talk about...
Wait. Can I get a question in, Reese? You just talk.
Ouch. Sorry, Philip. Sure.
Anyways, I just had a question, not being there and not seeing everything that's going on, you Kentuckians. I was just wondering, what separated for you guys the top rides, maybe the top 10 rides or the top 5 rides from some of the other rides, that were placed a little bit further down. What is the difference when you're talking about the 3 phases? What does it come down to?
Well, I think as event riders are getting really better at their jobs overall, the dressage is becoming more and more influential. So the top 3 riders put down obviously very accurate tests. The horses look really relaxed and happy in their work. Same for probably everyone that finished in the top 10. There were some movings around after cross country was quite influential. Time penalties and such definitely played a part in where everyone finished. Then the show jumping, there were actually, for Rolex, there were quite a few clean rounds, I thought. And I saw some amazingly good show jumping rounds. Eventers have notoriously been not great show jump riders in the past, and I think...
And that was true, and I thought the horses looked really great overall coming to Sunday. For such a long kind of technical course with the cross country seemed to be this year, because it was a WEG qualifier, so it seems
there are a lot
technical.
Of corners on cross country.
Yeah, a lot of big, scary things for people like me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that is huge. But it looked like there were some real technical aspects. But overall, I think everybody came out of cross country pretty good, is what it's saying. There were just some mistakes, but overall, everyone was okay. So that was always
everybody
good.
was really, really happy show jumping.
Super. Well, I love it. Well, Philip, if you're okay, I'm going to move on to our trainer tip. So Jenn, the reason I asked you to come on also to just give a Rolex rundown, but also to talk a little bit about some challenges of taking horses off the track. You are absolutely phenomenal at this and making them and giving them new jobs. as event horses. But as a big part of your challenge is retraining these these race horses to be dressage horses or do the element of dressage. So can you talk to us about some of the challenges that poses for you?
Okay, so some of the challenges with getting horses off the track and teaching them to be in more of a dressage mind and going towards eventing. I think probably the first and foremost, we're basically teaching them a whole new skill set that they've never had any sort of training for. So racehorses are taught to kind of get low and pull themselves on with their front end. It's a very efficient way to cover the ground, and they're quite good at it. So when we try to teach them to transfer over to dressage, we've got to teach them to use themselves from their back end forward and try to get their shoulders to come up a little bit and start pushing from behind. So this is completely different than the way that they ran, especially if they were fast. So trying to do that, we work on a lot of transitions and suppling exercises, trying to make the challenges get a bit more difficult gradually, so kind of don't blow their minds, telling them that everything they've learned before is not right. The other thing is when we get to a horse show, the environment becomes kind of a big deal to them, and having race and having that environment, they get kind of keyed up. So I like to take my young horses to little schooling shows and try to get them introduced to being in a show environment where it doesn't have to be so stressful. That way they can kind of continue on in their training that you've taught them at home, and when you get them to the show, it's not a complete disaster. Probably some of the other things, we do a lot of turn on the forehand and a little bit of baby lateral work as they start to get a little bit further in their progression of training. But the first thing, obviously, is to teach them relaxation and forward, which hopefully they understand how to go forward if they've been race horses. But you get a lot that don't go forward in the way we want them to, or they go forward and they're skittering sideways at the same time. So it's a fun challenge. I really enjoy working with the horses off the track and teaching them new things every day, and it's been a blast. I have two of my own thoroughbreds that were former race horses, one of which only won $500 and the other one won $400. They weren't quite good at their first job, but they are turning out to be pretty good event horses.
Now, I got a quick question about evaluating maybe an ex-race horse that's just off the track. Like, are you looking at horses that might be 6 months off the track or like right out of racing? And what things are you looking for? You know, what qualities can these horses show you before you even start riding and training them that you say, okay, that might be a really good one for what I want to do with it?
Well, I've gotten horses straight off the track, and I have gotten some that have had a little bit of letdown time, maybe a month or 2 or 6 months out. For example, the two horses that I own, both of them didn't really have any letdown time when I got them. So I try to give everybody 30 days off, just kind of relax and chill, learn how to be turned out, and get some weight put back on them and stuff. The race horses are very well fed typically, but they're very lean, and we kind of want them to transfer over and be a little bit more relaxed and let them get a little fat. So when I go and look at thoroughbreds, either coming straight off the track or ones that have had a little bit of letdown time, I do like to find a horse that has a little bit of a tendency to have an uphill build. I like to look at their neck set, find one that doesn't have a neck that's set real low on their shoulder, something that ties in nicely. I'm a big sucker for a pretty head with a big, intelligent-looking eye. I have to feel like I want to look at that horse in its stall or standing out in the field every day for a while, especially if it's one I'm going to end up keeping. And I prefer to get a horse that has a little bit of a shorter back, a shorter coupled horse, and has a little bit of a set to its croup, not too straight across the croup, has a nice tail set. And I definitely encourage everyone that gets horses off the track to have them vetted to some degree. Whether or not you go in and get a full set of radiographs is, your own prerogative. But mostly the trainers that I've dealt with getting horses off the track are generally fairly honest. When you ask if the horse has been found or if it's had any injuries and they tell you no, it's just no to their knowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean that horse hasn't had an injury before they got it, that it hasn't been bothering it. But I want to make sure whatever I get is going to be able to hold up to the job. I don't want to get a horse off the track that maybe would have been fine as a pleasure horse, but ends up getting injured, trying to teach it to jump or whatever because it has an injury that no one really knew about at the time. So generally I just look for sound horses with, big feet is another thing. Definitely try to get horses with good feet, that are generally straight movers, that have some swing to their walk and, look like they are going to have a good attitude and be fairly trainable.
Do you have any experience with certain bloodlines? I mean, have you experimented that much with the? Do you know the bloodlines for the ones that you like?
I have some things that I look for that are kind of hard to find. My older horse is by a stallion that probably no one would even know, but his grandsire was Private Account, who actually produced some really good show jumpers, either as a second career or as horses that were kind of purposely bred. And then on the other side, he has Aladar. I think both Private Account and Aladar tended to throw horses that had really pretty necks and beautiful heads and really smart-looking eyes, and that are generally fairly good movers, especially for thoroughbreds. My other horse's pedigree is not anything like the older one, but I do, if I find a horse that has Private Account in his bloodlines, even if it's a few generations back, I will go look at them. They're few and far between at this point in time, but there are still some of them out there. I have things that I avoid, which I'm sure some people absolutely love, horses with pedigree that I don't really like. I do avoid, unfortunately, Stormcat, who is a very nice stallion that produced many, many really good race horses. I tend to find those personality types to be a little bit difficult to work with. Some people absolutely love Stormcat, and I'm definitely not discounting anything that he's given to either sport. But for me, I don't tend to lean towards those ones for my own personal taste. So there are several other bloodlines out there that I'm sure other people enjoy too. So, but for me, I look for a Private Account. I'm just a sucker for those ones, and there just aren't very many of them out there anymore.
No, it's true. And Jen, I have to brag on you. You do a really amazing job when it comes to looking at thoroughbreds. And how many, even ballpark have you looked at conformationally over the years?
Oh, geez. Probably, we're probably up into the hundreds, I would think.
Yeah. No, and I think
even
that's
if I'm
so
just
good.
kind of window shopping and not looking for anyone particular, but I definitely like to kind of go and look and browse. And I have friends that are trainers or exercise riders, and I'll maybe go and look at some stuff that they've told me about. And
Yeah, I mean, you do an amazing job. And I think that that's the thing, is you've really trained your eye to look at these horses, because there are a lot of horses coming off the track in Kentucky, and there's tracks in every state, really. So, I mean, there are horses out there. And that's why I think it's so excellent, that you're able to take them and retrain them for another discipline is amazing. And, but that's why I asked, because you look at a lot of horses and you're very skilled and you know exactly what you're looking at. So that's one of the things I wanted to kind of call to attention to our listeners, that, when you look at horses, if it's a warm blood or even a, just any breed, kind of having the understanding, or having someone like yourself that's an expert at that breed go with you is a really important thing. So, But Jenn, thank you so much for your time this evening. Can you tell us, how can our listeners find you online if they have any more questions?
We have a website for the farm, which is www.antebellumfarm.com. There's a link to my email address on there, or you can email me at live2event@aol.com.
So I am ready. We have some listener love on the Facebook page. Philip, can you give us what the question is?
Well, Lori here on the wrote a quick little note to us, and hopefully we can help her out with the question. She says, "I would love a checklist for buying a horse, especially for the new dressage rider wanting to begin competing. Love the show. Listen to everyone. Thanks very much." So, Reese, okay, I know we've talked about it a little bit before. Maybe you could just bring it down, just the salient points, I guess, to buying a horse for an amateur relatively new to the sport, I think.
Sure. So again, buying a horse is a process, and that's what I tell all my students. It's kind of like you need to go on several first dates before you find your husband, or wife in Philip's case. It depends, it's a process. It's not, maybe process. Your first date with it will work, but really at the end of the day, it's a process. And I think you need to look at it that way. And you also need to spend a lot of time on this process. So what I encourage my riders to do when we're looking for a horse, if it's a first-time buyer or we're looking to upgrade a horse or whatever we're doing, first of all, I like to line out exactly what we're looking for. What is the perfect horse that we can find? And I like to narrow it down to mare or gelding or stallion, level of training, color, if that's important to someone, and really line it up. What's the perfect horse? And then I always tell my students, okay, we have this great tool, the internet. I want you to go and I want you to look online, and I want you to look at what are the average prices for the horse that you want. I think that that's a really good tool. And I want you to look at every horse you can find and look at every video. And as you do that, then I want you to come back to me and say what you like, what you don't like, where do you want to go with this? So that is another tool that I do. I think that that's really important. And then I line up sort of what my involvement is. If somebody wants to involve a trainer, which I always recommend. I know people say, trainers this, trainers that. But at the end of the day, if you have the right trainer that you're going to work with, that person should be involved with the horse. You should line up.
Can I ask?
Sure.
Can I ask you a question a little bit about the financial side of the process? You as a professional and a trainer, what's your fee and how is that structured? And I know some sellers. What are the situations that you've come across with the fees?
Yeah, no, I think that that's a really good question, Philip. And I do 10%. I don't know what you do. That's my standard fee, is a 10% commission on the horse that we're buying. And you have to understand that I think it's like a real estate agent. I'm there to protect, to protect you as the buyer. You're getting all of my knowledge and all of my skill, hopefully, in buying horses. But you're also getting, I'm then invested in the horse. I do know some people will go off and buy without their trainer, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if the trainer doesn't like the horse, or the person that you're working with doesn't like the horse, that becomes a potential issue. So, Philip, what do you do there?
Actually, I just charge my hourly charge, and I know in some situations, like there's travel time, and in some situations it has been that 10% would have been less, and sometimes it's that the 10% would have been a little bit more. So up front it seems like it's going to save you a little bit of money, but it really doesn't. I just
yeah, no, I think you have to work it out with your professional.
Trainers do different things. I know that.
Yep.
In some, this is what I really don't like. In some situations, is that the trainer is paid by the seller of the horse. I think that's pretty close to illegal. I know you don't do that. That's why I kind of knew what you did, and that's why I just kind of approached this.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important if you're going out to buy a horse and you've got a situation, figure it out with your trainer what you're comfortable with.
Right.
what their fee is. That you got to build it into your price.
Yep.
And that I would say try and stay
also
away from. Oh, I'll get paid by the seller of the horse. Don't worry about my fee. That kind of situation.
Yeah,
it's a little bit
kind of
funny.
sketchy. Yeah, it is. And but this is a conversation you need to talk to your professional about.
Yeah,
and
whatever
again,
you're comfortable with. I mean, there's different ways to look at it, different perspectives. I know that when you talked about real estate a little bit, it's important that the real estate agent, to do with the laws and stuff in our country, that it's paid by the buyer pays the fee and stuff. I think you get into less trouble that way.
Agreed. I think everything just needs to be on the table. Everybody needs
just
to know
out
what
in the
everybody's
open.
paying.
Also, with whoever you're buying the horse from, make sure everybody knows who's getting paid what by whom and how much. That kind of situation, because then you get into a lot less problems later on down the road. So hopefully, everything can be really open as far as the fees and stuff, because I know it gets complicated.
Yeah.
And you can see in the news there's a couple of cases in the court over big price horses that it can get messy. So
it can. So that's a really good point. And then you also need to build in the vet costs. You need to talk to your veterinarian about
how much you're going to do, like how far you want to go with a vetting, and what the cost of that is. All these things got to be built in before you ever even look at a horse. You got to know.
You got to know. So you may want to buy a horse for $20,000, but then you need to, add in if you go with a professional, or are you going to go? If not, that's fine. What is the veterinary cost? You don't have to do a vetting, kind of like you don't have to take a trainer. But these are all sort of built-in sort of insurance that you are buying the correct horse for yourself and your skill level. Taxes.
That's a big thing over here.
Shipping.
Lots to think about that.
Insurance.
It won't be immediately obvious to you.
Yeah, so I try to have this conversation with my students. I sort of sit down and I go through all of this because I think it's important. And I have a contract, so we sit down and put everything in writing. So again, some professionals don't do that, and that's up to your comfort level. So I think that's part of it. So that's just even before we go.
Before even looking
the horse.
Before even a specific horse is in the picture. Yeah.
Right. And then you've got to go to look at the horse. And I like to buy horses much better than selling because I think it's a puzzle. I think it's like, okay, is this horse going to work? And, is it going to fit in your program? And has the horse shown? What is the price of the horse? Does it have a veterinary issue that I need to talk to, our vet with? The other thing is, as a buyer of a horse, you should talk directly to the vet, not the trainer. That's a big thing for me. I have my clients, and then the vet has to talk to me, but they also have to talk directly to the trainer, or in an ideal world, we're all talking together. I think communication is a big deal here. Yeah, communication's a big deal. You need to know exactly.
So you're not getting a mixed message, or that you completely understand what the vet is saying in the pre-purchase.
Mm-hmm. And you may need to bring your farrier in. I mean, it's all a team effort. And I think, at the end of the day, you're probably buying a horse that you want to keep for a long time. So all these things are important to talk about. So that is just the start of the checklist. I mean, you and I, Philip, we could talk about this for days, but
for hours, yeah,
and we do.
I think, you had your perfect checklist for the perfect horse. Just remember, there is not the perfect horse out there.
Never. Right.
So, I mean, we like to have the checklist, but you're going to be outside that checklist for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure.
And budget. Yep.
And the budget, I mean.
Yeah, we're like, oh. And, it's interesting. I have a client looking in sort of a lower price range. And that's a difficult price range because, and I told her, the more we've looked at horses, the more I've said, if you can add $5,000 to your price range or even $30,000, it's going to make a big difference in the horses that we're looking at. So sometimes, just a little more money kind of pushes you over, like, for example, a $10,000 horse to a $15,000 horse to a $20,000 horse.
That can be, those are some pretty big jumps.
Yeah, and they're big jumps in quality of horses. And it doesn't mean you can't find sometimes horses not in that price range. But if you do your research and you look online and you look at why is that a $10,000 horse versus why is that a $20,000 horse, and that's where your trainer comes in because they'll be able to explain it or should take the time to explain it to you. Why do I need a little bit more money to find what you need? And don't rush into it. But I will say with that statement, when you find the right horse, you have to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I have several students.
I want to see 20 horses after this one that I liked. Well,
sometimes they don't
that's
wait
the horse.
around.
That's the horse, man. You just gotta, get a good feeling. Go with your gut. That's the other thing that we've talked about before. You gotta have a really good gut feeling. You gotta start off in a positive way. The other thing I like to, I know, like you said, we could talk for days about it. I say buy a little bit more, spend a little bit more money to buy the horse that you want rather than to say, I'm going to spend this amount and you're going to help me train it, because everyone knows, like the training process is not a straight line and something could happen, or, like thinking this is going to be the horse that I want 3 or 4 years down the road. That works sometimes, but there's no guarantees there, right? And if you say I could spend $10,000 more up front here, and boom, I got the horse. I'm ready to ride it. I'm ready to show it. It's there. It's ready. I would much prefer to go that route than to say maybe this is going to be the horse. But it's tough to find, like I said, with level of training and all that stuff. It's such a long process. It's so hard. So, but I agree with you. Get the max amount of training that you can afford.
Yeah, that, because your training costs, they add up so quickly. And I sometimes hear people say, oh, I'm going to go younger because I'll learn with my horse and I'll grow with my horse. I always stop them right there and say, whoa. Young horses are, if you want the journey and you know what that journey is,
it could take a couple more years than what you expected. It can,
or they can get hurt,
or, if you're saying, okay, I want a horse, I want to show it this year, I want something ready to go. That's you want it to go, and that's the other thing. You want to eliminate the unknowns as much as possible, I think. Yep. Yeah. Exactly, and that's another great point. The more a horse has been out, the better off you are. You need a horse that's been off the property. It's a known quantity. Yeah. Yep. Of course, Of course, that's value. You're gonna pay for it, right? Yep. But, But it's hard to get a horse off the farm for the first time. Philip and I do it. Man, I cringe when I have to get that horse on the trailer for the first time. You're like, well, yeah, you'd love to ride that horse, but it's going to take 3-4 more outings, this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It can be very disappointing. Yeah. So max amount of training, the soundest you can get. However, if there's issues, talk to your veterinarian. There's no guarantee. Yeah. Maybe you're going a little bit older than what you first thought. Mm-hmm. That could be the case. And that can be okay too, Yeah, absolutely. If it's got a proven record, sometimes it can go well and go with your gut. So those are kind of some things that I really if anybody has any more, like a more specific question, that would be great, because sometimes we just ramble on about maybe it's not getting to the point of your question, and we just get going, and we're like, so. Exactly. So we love these questions. Send them in. We hope that helps. Again, more specific on buying horses. Let us know. We'll cover it again. So because it's a very, very hard thing to do and find the right ones. So, but we wish you luck on your journey. Everybody, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. You can like us on Facebook. Just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com. You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on another great show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.